I woke on Christmas morning to the echo of silence, as if the world had forgotten how to celebrate. Not a single car passed the house. Not a laugh drifted from a neighbor's window, and the only sound in my own home was the soft hum of my phone's alarm. I stared at the ceiling, the pale winter light filtering through frost-rimmed windows, and let my gaze drift to the small stack of envelopes on my nightstand. Invitations, no, rather notices from my family. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we regret that you are not invited to this year's Christmas celebration. The reason, they said, was singular and absolute. I'd burned the parsley on the stuffing 2 years ago. That was it. A charred herb, a minor offense, yet judged worthy of expulsion from the most sacred of family rituals. I tossed the phone aside and sat up. My sweater felt too tight, as though every stitch were stitched with judgment. I slid out of bed and padded to the kitchen, where my roommate Jules was already sipping coffee. She glanced up, one eyebrow arched. "Morning," she said. "You look like someone woke you by setting your world on fire." "Feels about right," I muttered, grabbing a mug. "I'm banned from Christmas dinner." She snorted. "All because of parsley." I sipped the bitter brew. "That's the official reason." Jules tilted her head. "Official reason, huh? There's always an unofficial one." I shrugged, eager to believe her. But the note from Aunt Marjorie had been clear. "You know the incident in 2023. We cannot allow it to repeat." I clenched my jaw. It irked me that they referenced a single mishap, my infamous parsley fiasco, as though I were some malevolent saboteur rather than the black sheep sister who'd simply forgotten to fluff the stuffing. "All right," I said, setting the mug down. "I'll own this. I'll stay home. But I'm not going to spend the day sulking. I'm going to do something." Jules' smile was bright, conspiratorial. "Good. You need to own something, like a party of your own." I blinked. "A party?" She nodded. "You're a great cook. You've got friends. Heck, you've got friends your family doesn't even know exist. Throw your own Christmas. Invite everyone but them. Make it legendary." I paused, imagining the scene, my cramped apartment transformed with twinkling lights, my battered oven working overtime, laughter ricocheting off the walls. A Christmas tree bought on a whim, festooned with decorations scavenged from thrift stores. I could almost smell the cinnamon-spiced cider. The idea was absurd and exhilarating. "Jules," I said, voice low, "I think that's exactly what I need." She raised her mug in a toast. "To the rebel Christmas." Within an hour, my living room looked like Santa's workshop collided with a teenager's basement. I strung lights across the ceiling, taped paper snowflakes to the windows, and commandeered every candle I owned. My silverware drawer spilled forks and spoons onto the table. Mismatched chairs formed a semicircle around bowls of cranberry relish and Stalin bread. I played ABBA's Happy New Year on loop, insisting that Christmas and New Year's jingle together in a beautiful holiday fusion. And then I texted the invite. No formalities, just 2 lines. "Christmas at my place tonight. 7 p.m., bring yourself your favorite dish, and zero judgment. You in?" I hit send and stared at the screen, heart thrumming. By noon, my phone buzzed non-stop. There was Carter, the guy I met at trivia night, offering to bring his grandmother's secret eggnog recipe. Simone and Malik, my co-workers, pledged to contribute a vegan Wellington. Even my neighbor across the hall, who barely greeted me in the elevator, said she'd bring cookies shaped like Rudolph's reindeer crew. I found myself laughing out loud. My little banished from Christmas experiment was morphing into something far bigger. At 5 p.m., I donned my festive sweater, the one with reindeer wearing sunglasses, and surveyed the scene. I lined up platters, roasted chestnuts, honey-glazed carrots, a trifle so boozy it threatened to pour back into the glass. I'd learned my lesson about parsley. Instead, I used fresh sage and rosemary from the farmer's market. The scent of rosemary, wreathing the room, felt like redemption. Then the first knock came. Carter stepped in, arms laden with a massive pitcher of eggnog, cheeks rosy from the cold. "Hope you have room in your fridge," he said, wrangling the jug inside. "My grandma's territory." I grinned, handing him an apron. "Put it on the top shelf, right next to my prized brandy." Simone and Malik arrived next, toting the Wellington. They high-fived Carter in the hallway. "Hey, rookie chef," Simone teased. "We brought the main event." Malik winked. Good luck topping this. I laughed. I think we've got a complete menu here. As the crowd swelled, laughter filled the air. I found myself drawn to a circle of people by the window, toasting with glasses of Prosecco. Among them was Deputy Mayor Linda Chen, whom I'd met at a community meeting, and Theo, my old college roommate, who'd moved back to town this year. They chatted about Linda's new public arts project and Theo's pursuit of a half marathon. Conversation buzzed like electricity. Somewhere between the vegan Wellington and Carter's eggnog, I realized this party had something my family's gathering never had: freedom. No simmering tensions over politics, no unspoken expectations, no chart comparing who brought what year after year. Here, people shared stories, debated favorite holiday movies, and dared each other to try the eggnog that tasted suspiciously like rum. At 8 p.m., I stood on my tiny balcony, mug of mulled wine in hand, watching the city lights. The party's thrum pulsed through the windows. I closed my eyes, inhaling the cinnamon and pine. For a moment, I felt like I was part of something bigger, a network of voices and warmth that didn't require blood relation. Inside, someone started an impromptu game of charades. Carter acted out a Christmas story with dramatic flair, reenacting the leg lamp scene. We howled with laughter. Then Simone challenged Malik to pantomime, Home Alone, leading to a silent chase around the coffee table that ended with Malik flopping onto the sofa like Macaulay Culkin. I watched them, heart swelling. My phone pinged a text from Dad. I stared at it, uncertain. He wrote, "I saw the lights. Sounds like you're having fun." No apology, no invitation, just an acknowledgement. I typed back, "Thanks, Merry Christmas," hit send, and slipped the phone into my pocket. The night stretched on. Theo brought out his guitar and led us in off-key renditions of Silent Night, accompanied by banging on empty wine glasses. Linda surprised us all by dropping a beat with a metal spoon on her plate, turning our sloppy chorus into a quaint street corner performance. My living room, cramped and chaotic, felt more like a concert hall than a one-bedroom apartment. At midnight, someone I never learned who suggested a toast to the outcasts, the misfits and the parsley burners of the world. We raised our glasses, laughter mingling with tears, and the soft crackle of my Christmas playlist. I lifted my own glass, looking at the faces around me, friends, neighbors, strangers turned kindred spirits, and realized I was exactly where I was meant to be. When the last guest trickled out around 2 a.m., I stumbled to the kitchen to collect plates. The counters were a disaster. Crumbs, sauce splatters, empty pitchers, and yet I felt glowing triumphant. I turned on the faucet, rinsing dishes, and let the warmth of the water chase away every bit of doubt. Then I noticed the note stuck to my fridge, a sticky note from Dad. "Wish I could have been here." I folded it between my fingers, heart tight. But I also felt a spark of something new, a recognition that family might exclude me for burnt parsley, but chosen family had opened their arms wide. I washed the final plate, placed it in the rack, and dried my hands on a towel. The apartment was silent now. Christmas decorations wilted and lean, but I was not wilting. I felt electric, as though I'd reclaimed a part of myself I never knew was missing. Later, as I lay in bed, the hum of the radiator lullabying me, I thought of the next morning, my family's feast without me, full of forced smiles and overly crisp stuffing. And I thought of this night, my secret triumph, a party that nobody except me would ever believe existed. A smile spread across my face. The parsley incident had banished me, but I had secretly owned the night, and in that midnight glow, among the remnants of laughter and spiced cider, I knew I'd never look at Christmas, the real one in my heart, the same way again. The sun streamed through my curtains the next morning, highlighting every stray ornament and drip of sticky syrup on the coffee table. My head pulsed gently to the rhythm of last night's revelry, and for a moment I lay in bed, savoring the afterglow of my rebel Christmas. Eventually, though, the pull of reality, laundry, dirty dishes, a dozen unread messages, dragged me upright. In the kitchen, the scene was almost serene. The counters were littered with empty platters, but that meant one thing: everyone had eaten well. I grabbed a dish towel and began stacking bowls in the sink, remembering bites of vegan Wellington, spoonfuls of mashed potatoes laced with truffle oil, and that scandalously boozy trifle. My phone chimed, a group text from the party crew. "Carter, You are a legend. My grandma's eggnog never felt more at home. Simone, I'm already telling everyone about your Christmas mashup next year. Theo, the charades championship title is mine. Don't you dare challenge me. I smiled and replied, couldn't have done it without you all. Next year's snowball fight in the hallway? Then I saw the other ping. My phone unlocked and revealed a string of texts from my sister Natalie. Natalie, hey. I heard about your party. Natalie, I wish I'd been there. Natalie, can we talk? My chest tightened. The words "I'm sorry" hadn't appeared, but the olive branch was unmistakable. I tapped out a cautious reply. Let's talk. Coffee tomorrow? She answered almost immediately. 10 a.m., Cafe Roma. I'll buy. I took a deep breath. My family's Christmas tradition was scheduled for noon at Mom and Dad's, an event I'd skipped once before during college protests, but never in outright defiance. Now, though, everything had shifted. As I dumped leftover turkey into the compost bin and stacked plates by the dishwasher, I realized I faced two parallel choices: confront my family at their gathering or carve out a new path entirely. Maybe the coffee with Natalie would guide me. The next morning, I arrived at Cafe Roma 15 minutes early, a small victory in itself. I chose a table by the window, ordered a cappuccino and a lemon scone, and studied the street outside, half expecting to see Natalie racing up with an apology on her lips. Instead, she walked in 10 minutes late, cheeks flushed, hair askew from the winter wind. She waved sheepishly, carrying only a purse. No elaborate apology gift, no sign of forced cheer, just her. She slid into the seat opposite me. Hi, she said softly. Hey, I replied, sipping the frothy coffee. She folded her hands around her own mug. I'm sorry, she said after a moment. My heart thumped. It's okay. I surprised myself by saying quickly. She looked up, surprised at my lack of coldness. No, it's not. I've hated that note we all signed. Mom made us do it, said it was for your own good, but it was harsh. She stared at her cup. I was angry that year. Your parsley burnt our stuffing, but why did we have to exile you forever? I set my scone aside. It hurt, I admitted. I felt ganged up on, like I was the villain in a story I didn't understand. She nodded. I get that, and I feel awful. I've missed our fights over who actually gets the last slice of pie, your terrible jokes at the dinner table, everything. She looked at me, eyes glistening. I miss you. Tears rose unbidden. I miss you too. We talked then, really talked, for the first time in years, about old vacations ruined by toddler tantrums and burnt dinners, about the tension between being the good daughter and the black sheep, about the small slights that mushroomed into feeling unwanted. We laughed, briefly, at our teenage melodrama. By the time our cups were empty, a tentative truce had formed. I wanted to invite you, Natalie said, to the party tonight, if you're okay with it. My heart leapt. You mean you cleared it with Mom and Dad? She shrugged. We're sorry. All of us. They'll be weird for a minute, but I'll make sure they behave. I looked out the window at the pale morning sky. My rebel Christmas had been spectacular, but part of me longed for home. All right, I said. I'll come. That evening, I walked up the familiar path to my parents' house, feeling like an ambassador returning to hostile territory. The wreath on the door was slightly crooked, a small sign, I told myself, that things were changing. I pressed the doorbell. It chimed in that over-familiar way, and Mom opened the door, eyes wide. I'm so glad you're here, she said, stepping aside. Dad stood in the hallway, arms crossed, but a tentative smile on his face. Welcome home, he said. The house smelled of cinnamon and roast potatoes. Family voices floated from the dining room. Dad's booming laughter, my niece Lucy chirping about a new toy, my grandmother's soft humming of carols. I steadied myself, then stepped inside. Natalie slipped her arm through mine. Let me handle them, she whispered. You just focus on fun. I nodded, swallowed, and followed her around the corner. In the dining room, the table was laden with dishes, Mom's leg of lamb, Dad's Yorkshire pudding, Gloria's famed Yule log. I spotted my place setting a crisp white napkin, a sprig of rosemary, laid atop my plate, and beneath it a folded note. I lifted the note with trembling fingers, inside in Dad's careful script. We're sorry, Maria. Your seat has never really left. Mom and Dad. I blinked back tears. I looked around, Natalie caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up. I excused myself, darted to the kitchen, and hugged Mom from behind. She smelled of gravy and lavender soap. "I've missed you," she whispered. "And you," I said into her shoulder. When I re-entered the dining room, all eyes turned to me. Aunt Marjorie stood, glass of port in hand, offering a wobbly toast. To Maria, who reminds us that Christmas is about forgiveness, love, and perfectly acceptable mistakes. Laughter and clinking glasses erupted. I raised my water glass in return, voice catching. To family, we ate. We laughed more than I'd realized I'd missed. Dad teased me about my sweater. "I see you're still setting fashion trends." Lucy dumped mashed potatoes onto my plate. More Auntie, and Gloria gushed over my holiday spirit. Never once did parsley come up. Later, as plates were cleared and coffee poured, Natalie pulled me aside to the living room. There, she handed me a small, glittering box. Inside, an ornament, 2 interlocking pine cones, hand-painted in gold. Beneath it, another note. "For the night you owned Christmas, may it forever sparkle in our hearts. Your family." I felt tears prick again, but this time they were warm. I hugged the ornament to my chest and looked around the room at the faces I loved, flawed and wonderful. I realized then that my secret victory wasn't in outshining my family with a renegade party. It was in forging a space where we could all belong again. My rebel Christmas had been an anthem of independence, but coming home that night was the chorus of connection. As I placed the new ornament on our tree, its twinkling glow casting dancing shadows on the walls, I whispered a promise to myself: no more burned parsley incidents, but if there ever was, I'd face it together with the people who mattered most. And in the soft glow of that restored tradition, I knew I had genuinely owned the night. Not by banishing myself, but by bringing us all back, wiser, kinder, and ready to celebrate Christmas, as it was meant to be, imperfect, inclusive, and full of heart.